You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Jolon True, listeners, and welcome to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Amy, and with me today are Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Hello, guys. Christos, you're here and your legs are still attached.
I am, and I'm surprisingly feeling really good this morning. I thought I was going to be like sore and can't walk, but listeners, I just ran a 2-day relay race with 11 of my coworkers, and we ran from San Diego to Huntington Beach. It was over 200 miles of running. You do it kind of over 36 legs, and every team member runs 3 legs. So my total was about 16 miles of running. And you do that with like not a lot of sleep or rest in between your runs. You don't get to go home and sleep for 8 or 10 hours and wake up and do the next one. You nod off for an hour in your van and hope that no one disturbs you, and then you get up and run again. So it's a test of endurance, but it is the best team building there is. And I did see a van called the Away Team, and they were all Star Trek, and I was just a little bit feeling underrepresented. Like I was totally undercover, like a Romulan would be.
Oh.
plug for episode.
Kelvin, what's new with you?
I'm very well, thank you, Amy. I feel very, very bad now, actually, listening to that, Christos. I checked my pedometer on my iPhone, and it said that I've done like about 2,000 steps all day. So I've very much not been keeping up with the exercise and beating myself up. It sounds great, though. Did you do much training for it, or did you just go straight into it? I don't remember hearing that.
Not enough.
Right.
So up until 2019, where we'd run it every year, and I was running like a 9-minute mile, sometimes better, and I could go out and run 7 to 10 miles, no problem. And then 2020 came, and we got canceled like a week before the run was supposed to happen. The pandemic started, and I kind of kept up with my running good until I got COVID like a year and a half ago, and I was having a hard time. So it's been, honestly, this has been so good for me because I felt like COVID maybe had permanently damaged me, but training for this race, I've kind of busted through that wall, and I'm feeling like myself again. So I'm actually kind of committed to keeping this up and doing even better next year, because I was running like an 11-minute mile on this race. So I kind of was feeling bad about myself for not hitting my old time, but I needed to feel proud of myself for kind of breaking through the COVID wall and getting back to my normal level of health. My only thing was, Amy, I was wondering, did we not do a BQN challenge this week on fit? Because I would have blown you all away with the amount of calories I burned the last 2 days.
Man, I have forgotten. We'll have to get on Mahendran.
I know. I was like, I would have like had 44 points both days. Just like
right?
that.
Oh my gosh, for sure. Mark, hello. How are you doing this fine morning?
Jolon True, Amy.
Jolon True.
Doing well. The temperatures in Boston this week was just like a gift. We have had 88-degree temperatures for a couple of days in a row, and it was glorious. And that was Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday, nosedive back into the 50s and 60s. And that is what the next couple of weeks look like. So I did get out a little bit extra this week to soak up the sunlight. I've done some long walks with Murphy. The last couple of weeks in a row, we've done some over 9 miles of just walking. So that's been a lot of fun, but it's brought me so much joy. You don't even know, just being out of my house and getting vitamin D. Like, I've been giddy, legit giddy. So
It's a thing.
Yay.
This is the bridge. All hands to emergency escape pods.
Escape pod. Well, you guys, I know we're not here to talk about Picard, but oh my gosh, let's just quickly go through some highlights about our Picard season 3, episode 9, Vox. Mark, let's start with you. We had fun. I think, was that your third rewatch when you were watching it with me? Yeah. And it was my first. And so we're texting back and forth, and I'm like, OMG, WTF, what is going on?
And this was the day of.
Yeah.
One of the messages I wrote to Amy was just single greatest episode of television ever. No exaggeration. Loved it that much. Everything about it. Anyway, that's as brief of a opinion as I can give for this podcast.
Christos.
I loved it. I wouldn't say it was a single greatest episode. I would give it maybe the single greatest moment, like that moment, those last 10 minutes. I actually, as a total episode, prefer so far. I think episode 4 has been the best, like Star Trek feeling Roddenberry-esque episode. But I just loved, of course, the reveal of Hangar 12 and the Enterprise D in there. I know we all thought we were going to see like the saucer kind of, at some point just sitting there. I thought that's what we all thought we were going to get, not a completely restored Enterprise. And we know where the budget's been now. They've rebuilt that bridge literally per spec. There was no trickery, no CGI, no green screens. That was our Enterprise D bridge. And of course, Geordi restored it to the All Good Things bridge, not the Generations bridge, which give it just that extra little touch. I literally was crying, and then Majel Barrett came on, cried again. Like it just kept on getting worse or better, however you want to say that. But it was so emotional. I had all the feels.
Majel. They brought back Majel.
Yeah. And I found out, I read a little bit more last night. That was done using clips
chain of command, isn't it?
Yeah, they were using clips from different pieces in the dialogue of the 7 seasons of TNG, so to speak. It was not AI.
Yeah, the bit where she says USS Enterprise now under the command of Captain Jean-Luc Picard is the end of Chain of Command when Jellicoe gives it him back.
Yeah. How did y'all feel about, like, okay, away from our Enterprise D, and of course that was, like I said, it was everything. But how do you feel about like it being the Borg again? Because the Borg, I've seen a lot of criticism, and even myself a little bit of, we had the Borg in season 1 of Picard, we had the Borg in season 2 of Picard, and it keeps up being the Borg different, but it's always the Borg. How do we feel about that? And it not being a race?
Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi and I were messaging while I was watching the episode at work the day of, and we both agreed that was like an eye roll moment. Now, I love, as I said, single greatest episode of television because it gave me all of the feels. That's why I say that, because this episode was a roller coaster, up, down, around. It was a ride, and it made me feel all of the feels I can feel. But that was a feel. It was an eye roll. Like, again, okay.
So was that because you wanted it to be something different, or just, what was it the overuse of the Borg, or was it that the reveal left you wanting something new and fresh, or did you want the par rates, which was the other popular theory? Why didn't you like it, Mark?
I don't think I wanted either. It would have been better, I think, like, there has been a lot of fan service, and I love the fan service. Keep the fan service coming, but at some point they do have to break away from the already, well-worn paths of Star Trek. Create a new villain, go a different direction, which they have yet to do.
Yeah, I almost feel guilty in saying that. I don't feel bad that this reveal was the Borg, because I think when you look at the story holistically, and that it is being built as almost a follow-on from, you've got Best of Both Worlds, then First Contact, now this story, and it does wrap up the Locutus story. It almost makes me feel guilty that season 1 and season 2 used the Borg. So it's almost like it would have been nice to erase that and this be the big Borg story. Now, I feel guilty because of, obviously, with Annie, she was so great as the Borg queen, and without the Borg in season 1, you wouldn't have had like 7 of 9 coming in, and Hugh and other great aspects. So I was completely fine with it with the Borg. I know what you mean. It was kind of a bit, well, everyone predicted this. So it was kind of, yeah, I'm happy that the prediction was right. Yes, the unfortunate subtitle of it saying the voice was the Borg Queen, as you mentioned, Christos, was also correct. So that's kind of ruined the surprise there too. But I think it's very valid that it's the Borg because of all of the build-up and the history and the story, and just peppering little things in like Shelby to kind of pull everything together. So I'm delighted, and I also like this kind of new and imaginative method of assimilation, what the Borg have done as well. This is really an evolution, not only of changelings, but of the Borg.
So I have a question for you about that. So the Borg are working with the changelings, and the changelings got on board and was inserting the program into all the ships to infiltrate. So my question is, do you think that the Borg have assimilated the changelings?
No, I think I've even read a little bit about this online. I don't think they have. I think they're changing to just like, we want to screw over the Federation and the Borg. We can help the Borg do that. I think it's just basically that. Although the changelings were definitely afraid of the Borg. If you saw remember how afraid Vadic was, and they had some control over them too, because Vadic was made to experience pain and discomfort through by the Borg. We're guessing that was some sort of Borg on her hand. I've also seen some imagery to say that was like Locutus, but I think there's a little bit more to be revealed.
Yeah.
But the other kind of weird thing was, okay, we needed Jack Crusher to be the transponder or the voice, and all they had to do was like keep him from leaving the Titan, and that wouldn't have happened at Frontier Day. They wouldn't have had a way to activate all the drones. So it kind of made the whole like why the Titan did not stop Jack from getting in that shuttle in the many different ways.
He's controlling everyone.
But have we seen him control like 1 or 2 people? Yes, but has he controlled a whole ship?
But remember, it's just a skeleton crew.
Well, but then look what happened at the end of that episode. How many drones were running around on the Titan? Suddenly it went from being a skeleton crew to a lot of people. So I don't know. I just felt like it's a trope in Star Trek, that sometimes shuttles just do their thing. They leave the Enterprise, they leave the Titan, nobody ever, there's a shuttle leaving on an unscheduled departure. It happens all the time. And that's probably my only little ding on the whole episode, was that there should have been at least made a little bit more of them trying to stop Jack. It's like, just Beverly and Picard in the observation lounge. There he goes. Block this one. Like nobody even tried.
Yeah. I think that next week's finale is a little bit obvious in what needs to happen. They just need to either get Jack to stop what he's doing, therefore rescue him from the Borg, or dare I say, kill him. So I think that's pretty obvious.
I think that he is going to, his humanity is going to take over while he's in sort of command of the Borg cube, and he's going to take it over, and the Borg cube is actually going to help them defeat the fleet or whatever, and prevent everybody from dying.
I hope they don't do that, because I think that's a little bit too much like the Jurati effect on the Borg Queen. I don't want, just a brackets good person to be all it takes to ruin the Borg, or even it's a little bit Unimatrix Zero as well, really, isn't it? Someone overpowering the collective, and then the Borg ship is actually the ones that come.
Or Borg, right?
Yeah. So we're very much in territory of it's been done before.
As I was driving home last night, I was listening to a little bit of All Access podcast, and they had Jonathan Frakes on. And I don't want to say it's a spoiler, but I think Ed Spalier / Jack comes out just fine at the end of the series. So that is a little spoilery, but they've been saying all along that legacy would include Jack. So I guess.
But will it include the Titan though? Do you think the Titan's going to come out of it safe? We obviously know Shaw's not going to be in it.
Titan's now one of my all-time favorite ships. I love it. I don't know. So it was a great episode, but it's a part 1. Anyone get tickets to the finale?
It's not in my city.
It's not in my city either, but
it's not in my country.
So I guess I will be come about 7 or 8 p.m. on Wednesday night when the New York ones are airing and finishing. I will just fall off social media, wake up Thursday morning like I have been, and watch the finale, because there's going to be way too many people that have seen the end.
But even the people who've seen the screeners have started putting spoilers out. I'm almost tempted to come off social media immediately.
Yeah. What do y'all think of the fact that Picard is now a top 10 streaming show just through episode 4? Amazing. And it's only going to, like, the way Nielsen ratings work for streaming, it's all about number of minutes watched, right? So the more episodes that keep getting added in and people are rewatching and new viewers are coming in, I expect the ratings to go up. It was like number 9 its debut this week, but I have a feeling it's only going to go up. That's a big deal for Star Trek.
Yeah. And it's good for the future of the franchise as well, about giving us legacy.
Especially if people were finding out about Strange New Worlds because of the commercials and stuff. I don't see the commercials, but I know they advertise heavily if you have the advertised version for the other shows.
They've been popping them on the unadvertised version of Paramount Plus 2 just before the episode. It's like they'll show this sort of clip of Strange New Worlds. So
it makes me very optimistic for the future.
Yeah, it does.
It's a very Star Trek thing to say, Christos.
I try.
So do you think that we're going to see that floating head that Vadic was talking to?
Isn't that going to be Locutus?
I think.
Well, I've heard rumors that was the Borg Queen. So because if you see the back of the head of the Borg Queen and the back of the head, they look very identical. So there's a lot of theories that was just the Borg Queen communicating directly to Vadic. But I don't want that to be the case, because the dialogue isn't something I can imagine her saying.
Right.
I don't know. We'll have Amy. I think to answer your question, I think they have to explain it. I think that would be a major thing left unanswered. And when you go back and rewatch the season, you'd be like, what the, So I think you would almost have to get an explanation.
Yeah.
Can I say as well, I saw a very funny meme on the internet yesterday about the Enterprise D when it's coming out of Hangar 12, of how there's only 7 people on the bridge, but they felt the need to turn all of the lights on for every single room in the Star Drive section.
You know what I loved about that shot? I mean, that's funny. I like that you see the original NX-01 in the same shot.
Yes,
up in the upper part of that shot. That is kind of nice to me. There's a big high res wallpaper going around of that. I think that might become my new computer wallpaper.
I didn't see any other ships because it was all Enterprise D. And when I saw it, you guys, I felt guilty for even saying that I liked other ships, like the Protostar. Like when we talk about Prodigy, I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful ship. No, there is no other beautiful ship. It is Enterprise D. I will never say that again. I already feel guilty. Like she and we're, we've got Troy finally, and now we get the last of our characters reunited.
Yeah.
The Enterprise D. Man, I miss her so much.
Yeah, it was very that's why I think everyone had said. I mean, even listeners, even in our BQN chat, it was like kind of crazy on Thursday. And the Facebook group that a lot of us belong in, the Federation, I'd never seen so many comments on an episode. Like, it literally had the universe talking because it was because of those 10 minutes, not because of the whole episode. I think. I don't know. I think it was everything we didn't know we needed.
And who would have saw the gut punch coming when Shaw dies? I was hoping they would kill off episode 1, and then when they did, I was like, oh no. So that's how well the actor did
Yeah.
in the course of the season. He got us to really root for Shaw.
Yeah.
So when that happened, it was like, and then of course we got that moment where he finally called 7-7, and that was very touching. So
I predicted that as they were setting up the main legacy characters going to the D. It was like, there's no station for you. There's no station for you. So off you get, Rafi. Off you get 7. Shaw, you're not coming with us. And I remember saying to James, "Oh, he's going to die and call a Severed 9 in his last breath."
Yeah.
So I called it 30 seconds before.
Yeah. So where were Rafi and 7 when they were all on the bridge?
They stayed on
They
the
stayed on the
Titan.
Titan.
They're still they're still down there in that maintenance. Last time we saw them, they're down there on that maintenance.
Oh,
thing. So
because
I
they
think
stayed with Shaw.
yeah. So I think we're gonna see them be part of the story in the final, being part of maybe retaking the Titan or helping to protect and retake Elandra and all the all our other next generations. What about our little cameo with Shelby, 5-star Admiral Shelby?
Amazing.
Talk about ambitious.
Good for her.
Good for her. She made it, man. She got to the top. She outranks Janeway.
Man, well, she told Riker, "Get out of my way," and look at her. I love it. Love it.
I hope. She's dead, but I hope kind of she's not dead. I mean, I hate when you bring somebody back just to kill them, But it did kind of. I loved seeing her again.
Oh, like Ro?
Yeah.
Well, at least with Ro, we got a whole episode, right? We got a lot of dialogue. We got resolution to storylines. I would have loved for Ro to be in like 2 or 3 episodes, and then they killed her. But I'm okay with I'm okay with what happened to Ro. But Shelby was just like 20 seconds and killed. And then
I wanted Ro sat on the Enterprise D at the con station. Not gonna lie.
So there were a couple of comments, one by Riker and Picard, that it was like, Shelby, why is she doing something so Borg-like? So what do you think? Why was she so on board with this automation? I mean, or do you just think that was a story plot?
I think it's that whole like sheer effing hubris type of stuff. I think people get to this point, oh, we've got a solution, and it's foolproof, and it's always never foolproof, right? But I think it's just something like that. Probably ego thinking we did this amazing thing.
It's so obviously a bad idea, though. So it is. Who are all these Starfleet people at senior level that think this is actually an upgrade or a benefit or a new feature, when all of the fans are like, yeah, this is very Borg. Take out one ship and you've taken them all. It's their interconnectivity is their Achilles heel, as Beverly said. So it's just a very Borg-like bad idea to do it to the ships.
Well, and then this is similar. I've seen this brought up similar to what they did in Prodigy with the living construct and all the ships being sort of interconnected in that way. Yeah. So this isn't the first time, and especially it's been within this year, so it's still fresh in our memories.
Well, look at the first episode and last episode of Picard season 2, when the good Borg, whatever, come in and they go after the Stargazer. They're literally assimilating, trying to get to all the ships because they're, through, trying to assimilate all the ships and disabling them and whatnot. So it's like, I think it's a little bit of an overused thing, and we just know better. And even if viewers know better, why wouldn't Starfleet?
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, it really does mirror where we are now. I mean, ChatGPT, that AI is doing so much, and it's like, oh, look, it's doing so good. That's doing so good. Let's go to more automation, and you can see this progression that it's like, oh yeah, this is good. This is good. Let's apply it to our cars. Let's have them be self-driving. Then we can coordinate all of the vehicles in the world. It's just that slippery slope.
We missed you last week, Amy. This is so last week's topic.
Yeah, with the AI. I did watch the episode, and it reminds me when, I don't know, someone was talking to Spock, Bones, I think, and was like, well, it seems like you prefer technology. And he's like, well, it is more efficient, but it's not a replacement. So, okay. Well, let's get to today's topic, and it is Captain's Chair, and it is my choice. I sort of feel like with this series that we're doing, like when we podcast, I don't get to that opportunity to talk about the really good episodes. So I was, going through my mind, all right, what's a really good episode that I haven't talked about in a while? And so I landed on Unification and the second, Unification 2. I don't know how to say it because it's not part 1, and they made that very clear. So it's Unification 2. And so, Christos, what in the heck is this episode about, or this two-parter?
So I'm going to freelance our recap here. So Picard gets pulled away and from a mission, and it's like, we need you to go find out why Spock has apparently defected to Romulus. And it's like, whoa, we've got big problems here. Why is Spock on Romulus? And so the first part is all about getting to Spock, basically. So, we see Picard enlist the help of the Klingons to get him to Romulus, because you need a cloaked ship to get there. And then we need, of course, Riker to go find out this other part of the storyline of what's happening with some weird parts of some old Vulcan ships. So basically, we find out in part 2 that Spock has gone to Romulus to work on reunification between Vulcan and Romulus, because they are the same species, and they split hundreds and thousands of years ago and went their separate ways. Vulcans embraced logic. Romulans stayed very much true to their emotions and have become, their devious, plotting, superstitious selves. So Spock is, practicing what we call cowboy diplomacy. Lots of really good fan service there. In the meantime, we find out that the Romulans are really onto the fact that Spock is around, and they're working on trying to use this to their advantage. And we see Sela again, who is being devious. I think that this is the last time we see Sela is in this two-parter. They want to turn this around and use it to invade Vulcan and take it over and take advantage of the situation. And so Picard and Data and Spock have to kind of team up to defeat Sela and stop the so-called invasion force. See the Enterprise running around. They help intercept the invasion force, but the Romulans destroy it first. And Spock is left on Romulus to continue to work in the background to further his point of reunification, but knowing that he has much, much, much more work ahead of him than he thought. Oh, and Sarek dies in this episode.
Yeah. Yes. So a fabulous episode, or two-parter. I don't know what to call it. I'm just going to say episode, and we're going to assume it's the 2 hour. So I wanted to ask, I know watching on streaming, and then I have the Blu-rays, that it begins the episode with the Gene Rodenberry 1921 to 1991. Did that go live when it first dropped?
I watched this episode when it first aired. He died like a week or two before, I think, right?
Yeah.
So this was obviously a last-minute insert, but by season 5, I was literally not missing premiere of TNG, and it was there from the get-go.
Yeah. So I did want to sort of talk about this momentous episode, because we lost Gene Roddenberry, and it was the 25th anniversary of Star Trek overall. So the silver anniversary, and there was a cross promotion between the Undiscovered Country movie and Unification, which I just absolutely love.
Yeah. And think about the similar themes as well. Spock was almost doing the same role in both franchises. There is the kind of brokering piece with the Klingons in the Undiscovered Country, and brokering piece with the Romulans here in Reunification. So I think it was a really good kind of use of the character, a really plausible use of what Spock might be doing in this timeline now after all those years, because he's done it before with the Klingons. So I think we all know and love Spock as the science officer, but I remember as a child, almost I see Spock more as I was growing up as a diplomat. You know, I've had to go back and rediscover Spock as the science officer. All my time growing up, I always associate Spock as the man who brings about peace.
Interesting.
I couldn't agree. Like Spock, his evolution of, you know, when Vulcans live hundreds of years, right? It would only be natural that he would go on to bigger and better things. Of course, he had his time as a science officer. He had his time as a captain and such a training captain / mentor, and then move on to diplomacy. It's like his evolution of just, you know, learning and then giving back is it's awesome.
I love in Star Trek how they always use really old people to be diplomats, like, you know, Curzon Dax, the Odan symbiont as well, and clearly
Picard.
Vulcans. Yeah. Old man Picard, yeah.
What was that
Sarek,
guy that was brokering the peace between those warring factions, and he was taking that drug to make him a lot younger?
Oh,
TNG?
yes.
Man of the
Admiral
People?
Jameson. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Admiral
Jameson. Right?
Yeah, but
Oh,
Man
yeah,
of the
no.
People, you're right as well, Amy. Alcar from Man of the People.
Yeah.
There you go. All these old people, old and wise and very patient.
yes.
I think wise is the key word there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Experienced. Yes.
Yeah.
So, that sort of unification, like you were talking about. So, Undiscovered Country was inspired, if you remember, back in 1991, the Berlin Wall fell, the collapse of the Soviet Union. So, this whole theme is this, you know, specifically for the German reunification. And so it's an important episode in especially history, in our real life history. And that's what I also love
It was
about
a moment in time.
unification.
It was really kind of it was a moment in time. There was a lot going on in the world, and at the same time, I can say, like, this was Star Trek at its I want to say at its height. I mean, this is 1991, 25th anniversary. TNG season 5. By that point, it was must-see television. Everybody was watching TNG. You know, you had Star Trek 6 coming back, which, you know, kind of brought back the swan song for the original series, and with a great movie, and gave the original crew this amazing send-off. I remember getting the 25th anniversary video game for my computer and playing that. It was just like, I mean, Deep Space Nine was greenlit at this point and probably in development because Star Trek was doing so well. This was like literally, like, this was Berman era Trek literally starting to hit its high. And the next couple of years until the end of TNG would probably be its biggest years.
Yeah. With Gene Rodenberry being so infamous for saying he didn't want any original series content on Next Generation, he wanted it to be so standalone. Clearly, this episode marks his death. But how much do we feel that he kind of greenlit the idea of Spock being involved? Do you think he was too sick to be involved, and they kind of just took that decision with Rick Berman, Michael Piller, and kind of got Spock? Because it does seem, as momentous as it was, it does seem quite like not something that Gene would have wanted to happen had he still been fit and well and running the show.
Well, I don't think he would have had an issue with it. I mean, at the very first episode of TNG, we had the cameo from Bones. He was there. So it's like, I don't think he really minded so much the cross-pollination of the characters. I just feel like he didn't want to go back and check in on the aliens that, the TOS people discovered, like the people, half blackface, half whiteface. It's like, it's been done, so we're not going to go back and see them anymore. He wanted to go explore new places and whatnot. So I think as far as the character, though, I think he would have been okay with it. I think he would have appreciated what they were trying to do with it, especially brokering peace for that future for their planet to be a more utopian thing. I don't know. I think Gene would have been cool with it.
In all of my research, it's always pointed to Rick Berman. Like he went to Nicholas Meyer and Leonard Nimoy to see if we could get, this cooperation between the movies and, TNG. And so that's why there's this collaboration. Like, we have Worf in the movie. I mean, not
Yeah.
Worf. Y'all know what I mean.
Worf.
So there's
We
this
do.
give and take between the movie and the episode, and they finally got that go ahead. There seemed to have been some deal, and then once they got that go ahead, then Berman and Piller came up with the episode I did that sort of paralleled Undiscovered Country. So it's always been sort of a Rick Berman baby.
Yeah, I think by season 5, TNG had earned itself. Okay, season 3 and 4 were so strong, and so by season 5, you've earned the ability to start referencing TOS and doing a little bit of fan servicey stuff. And by the way, this is like the beginning of like what everyone loves to say, Marvel created the interconnected universe, but like Star Trek was like the OG initiator of this. I mean, Star Trek being able to tie things together, like your point, Amy, just even having something as Worf's great grandfather or grandfather in Undiscovered Country. And it's such a slight little thing, but you get it if you get it. I think it was all earned at this point.
Well, how did you guys like the story of unification? One thing that really stood out to me was just sort of this grassroots movement and how, seeing that and having it be somewhat successful. I mean, and the sneaking around, and these are the trinkets that I found from my great, whatever. And this is a book that I found. Like, I really enjoyed seeing that because I feel like it inspires people to get motivated to create action in something that you're passionate about. And I really appreciated that in this episode.
Yeah, I think they did a good job here of making not generalizing a species, all Romulans are evil, all Romulans are treacherous. So establishing Ambassador Spock's underground movement with all of these dissidents who wanted reunification was good for the franchise to be a little bit more complex. As a child, that kind of washed over me a little bit. I liked, here's the character of Spock, and here's Sealer again, and I love Denise Crosby, and those were the parts of the episode I loved. And if I'm being honest, I kind of was here a little bit more for the B plot with the Zakdawn and the Vulcan cruiser and what's going on the Enterprise D, and the Fat Ferengi on Quaylor 2. I loved all of that. The actual political side of the episode, at the time, it was take it or leave it for me.
Yeah, you just wanted some Klingon opera. I feel like this was like the perfect storyline, Amy, because I'm like, if you think about it, even as fans, we're like, when you talk about reunification of two races and you talk about ending of things like racism, and there's allegories to racism and stuff like that in here. And even as fans, Romulans and Vulcans were so different, and we look at them and we know they're different, and we're like, they can't get together and get along. They're so different. And so even as fans, you would have to kind of accept this idea that they could make up and put behind them thousands of years of conflict and kind of come together again as a united species. So there's that. You don't just have to make it work on screen, but you also have to make the Star Trek fans believe that these people could come back together. So I think it's a really good allegory. And you mentioned the whole underground thing. It's like it just for me there are some like drawbacks to American history and the Underground Railroad and things like that, and things that people had to be very brave in a very dangerous time. Things that literally could get you killed if you got discovered. And I think it kind of shines a light back on American history a little bit that way. And it's a great story.
Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit about why this is your favorite episode and your choice for this? Maybe not favorite episode, sorry to put words in your mouth there, but why is this your choice? Why were you champing at the bit to tell us about this episode? Why is it such a great one for you?
Well, as I said, I wanted to talk about something that is critically acclaimed. And at the time, this episode was the highest rated since Encounter at Farpoint. So this is a definite pinnacle of TNG. And I don't really ever get to talk about these well-loved episodes or to actually even rewatch it. So on my rewatch, it was interesting. I was a little bored. I mean, I don't want to jump to assimilations and regenerations, but it was like so much talking. And I love the intrigue and the strategy. And I'm fine with Sela. That was totally good. But it is such a momentous episode in that it marks like just this, yeah, like we've been talking about, a great time in history, a great time in Star Trek. So
The dialogue for me made it,
mhm.
and made it just really enjoyable. Like the whole play with Donkachin and Troy, like that was great. You got the Riker and that woman who was playing the like the opera music. He was sort of flirting with her, and she was just living for it. And so their back and forth was extremely enjoyable. But like these dialogue moments, these character moments, is what to me makes this episode so fantastic, because it doesn't have to be about the ships blowing up or phaser fire, but it's these character moments that I just live for. I loved it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Mark. Sorry, Amy. That's a great point, that Mark. I remember the exchange on the Klingon ship where they're making them sleep on the hard beds, and then that momentous exchange with Spock and Data about why do you want to be human? You'd make a perfect Vulcan. And he says, you know, you've since you were reborn, you live your life as 100% Vulcan. So you've thrown away everything I aspire to achieve. And that was such a powerful Data moment. So yeah, there's just a lot of fan service in this episode that is much more than the action-based content. So it's quite a low peril episode.
Yeah, I really liked you talked about the piano playing person, Amory. Amory, yes. And yes, getting these characters of Worf singing his Klingon opera, which premieres first in this episode, and Riker teaching jazz and her, you know, four hands playing and he's playing. That was Miles Davis, Freddie Freeloader that Riker was teaching her. So yeah, those moments, there's so many in there. One that I liked, because Sela was complaining about the responsibilities of her job, and then Data's like, well, maybe you should get a new job. Come on, that's just
like
too
that. That's
funny.
like a shade.
Yes.
Yeah. There's so much. Somebody get me a napkin. There's so many little fun like moments. Like I just always like good lines. Like it's funny, if you do an episode recap, you almost don't need. It's not important to talk about all the other things that the Enterprise is doing during this two-parter if you actually are recapping the episode, but it's just as entertaining. And it's not really a B story either, because it all ties back to the A story. But it's all developmental stuff that you see there. More, you get more Riker fleshed out and Data all through these episodes. Also sets up another Amy episode, Face of the Enemy, right? You wouldn't get Face of the Enemy without Unification 1 and 2.
That's
Maybe
right.
that belong. And I noticed we didn't put that in assimilations, but yeah, you wouldn't get that. Would not get that episode storyline without this episode.
And I just need to discuss Mark Leonard's acting when he's playing Sarek in that state that he's in. What
Bendai syndrome.
Yes,
Advanced
yes.
Bendai syndrome.
So convincing, so powerful, so complex. Like the pain on his face, and then the recognition of, oh, it's Picard. Like the flashes going back and forth between, consciousness, and unbelievable. Credit to Mark Leonard.
And Amy, to add to the moment that you're talking about there, the score by, I think, is it Jerry Goldsmith?
This one is Dennis McCarthy.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. The score during those scenes. I'm during this whole episode, but during those scenes is so good. I remember it was probably one of the first Star Trek soundtrack CDs I remember buying, and it literally had the music from Unification 1 and 2 on it. I mean, this was still when TNG was still on. And it was just one of the first few times that I felt like there's a lot of things that elevate this episode. And like you said, Mark Leonard's acting, but the score really does a lot to help this episode as well.
Absolutely. And this episode was nominated for Emmy Award for its music composition.
Oh, there you go.
So it wasn't just you that liked it.
There's a couple of lines in this, like I mentioned, that I really love. But I got to say the line that Dokachin says to Troy, he probably figures that we won't get to see a lot of handsome women out this way, and someone like you might get a little more cooperation from me. He's probably right. That was just great. That actor was great. I love his sort of curmudgeon character. Perfect. He was in charge of his little area, and he got to, sort of dictate what the Enterprise had access to. And he was the king of his little hill. And I loved that character. I thought it was great.
And Troy had to remind Riker, who is this guy? He's what we need help from.
Yeah.
So you better suck it up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it
that
was a
sounds
little bit
like
of
a
an ego
good job for you. He just turned it right back on Deanna.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit of an ego check for Riker. Like, hey,
Yes.
you don't just get to like order people and get what you want. Sometimes you have to work at it through different angles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then he'll offer to show you his 14-foot long eel as well. Lucky old Deanna.
Oh my God, I laughed out loud. I was like, oh my God, he wants to whip out his eel to show her, and it's 14 feet long.
There's always a guy wanting to share a dick pic.
Well, one of my favorite assimilations is that, of course, this episode is a two-parter, or part 1, part 2, or 1 and 2, whatever we're going to say, Amy. But we would see a third part almost 30 years later in season 3 of Discovery. And I love to bring this up personally because it's one of my favorite episodes of Discovery. I actually can just rewatch this episode sometimes whenever I just want to watch a Discovery episode. I love what goes down, and to see that Spock's work was successful 800-900 years later, and it took that long, but the seeds that were planted got there, and we get to basically Navarre, because Romulus does get destroyed, and they settle on Vulcan and rename the planet Navarre. And I think that is amazing to me, that this episode would be so instrumental in Star Trek history that it's still being the events of this episode are still important even today and today's Star Trek. Like I said, and I love, one of my favorite moments is when like Michael Burnham is there with Book, and she's watching, which is basically video from part 2, which is a little weird. I don't know who was recording that for history there, but she's watching Spock, and she sees what Spock became. And I'm feeling emotional just talking about it. It's big. I just love watching that. I love when Star Trek makes me feel, and that episode makes me feel. So,
All right. Well, we do have some trivia to go over. And one thing that I found interesting was the decorations in Proconsul Neral. Yeah. His office can be seen in Mott's barbershop in Schisms, and in the reception area of Starship Mine, and in the observation lounge of Parallels. So I love seeing those redesigned sets show up everywhere. Mark.
So this was something I dug for. I was very excited about it. But and this is the first time I caught that, when I was watching this episode and they were talking about the ship that they were looking for in the scrapyard, and they mentioned it was the T'Pau. I was like, T'Pau, I know T'Pau. Well, T'Pau was a Vulcan diplomat, judge, and philosopher who became one of the leading figures in Vulcan history. Her first appearance in Trek was in the TOS episode Amok Time. Remember, she had the hat and she was deciding who would, win the battle or whatever. And then we also saw a younger version of her appear in an Enterprise episode. I forgot which one it was. But
the Forge.
In the Forge. Okay. Yeah. In this episode, they named that ship after her, the Vulcan ship. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Did you want a little low-key Enterprise trivia? T'Pol was supposed to be T'Pau, but I don't think it was a licensing thing. I think they'd have to pay the original writer of Amok Time a lot of money for that. So they changed her to T'Pol.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely right. I've got
on Enterprise, man.
I've got two pieces of trivia on your trivia. So T'Pau was also the name of a UK pop group who were huge Star Trek fans and had a massive #1 single called China in Your Hands. So every time I hear about T'Pau, I always go back into my 80s mode. So very much in keeping with your It's Green topic from this month. And Amy, your mention of Naral's Office, when they did the remastered TNG episodes, they specifically had to reshoot those Naral office scenes because that reflective crystal on his desks, in the original, you could see all of the cameramen in it because it was reflecting all behind the scenes. So they edited all that out CGI-wise for the remastered versions. So again, I always think of that when I'm watching this episode of that's been touched up.
So we have obviously Spock showing up here, and he only shows up 5 times without Shatner, Kirk, this being one of them. Can you name the other 4 times?
There's the 2 Kelvin films, the 09 and Into Darkness.
Very good. There's 2.
Are they actually canon things, Amy, or are they
Yes.
like commercials? Okay, all right. Oh, so are you counting Discovery Unification Part 3?
I'm not, because that wasn't
New
him.
footage.
Yeah.
It was it was, but it wasn't new footage.
It wasn't. Yeah.
He was dead. He wasn't there.
He was dead.
you.
Okay.
No, it goes back to, Captain Kirk days.
I'm only coming up with 2 of the 4, and I got a sneaky suspicion I'm going to brand the other 2 as trick questions or trick answers.
No.
So I'm really excited.
Okay. The Cage. No Kirk.
Oh,
Come on, guys.
Amy, come on.
Of course.
We are asleep.
Wake up.
And the second one is in the animated series, The Slaver Weapon. So that one sort of is a trick because it's, animated. But
Was it just Shatner wasn't in that episode? Is
correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. I didn't know there was an episode without him of the animated series.
Yeah. There it is. Okay, now, in part of that deal, that Berman made with Nicholas Meyer and Leonard Nimoy, part of the deal was Nimoy wanted his son Adam to direct Unification and Unification II. However, it didn't go through, and Cliff Boyle was called in, thankfully. But Adam Nimoy did direct 2 other TNG episodes. Can you name them?
I've got one.
Okay.
Timescape.
Very good.
Ooh, a good one, too. I do not know.
Okay.
Give us some clues. Give us a clue, Amy.
Oh, yeah. Give a hint from that episode.
There's kids.
Rascals.
Very good.
Wow, excellent. I've got a bit of behind the scenes trivia as well. These 2 episodes, I don't know if you noticed in the production numbers, but Unification 2 was filmed before Part 1 because of Leonard Nimoy's availability. Mm-hmm. So they often shot out of sync in TNG and the rest of the series. But I think to film a 2-parter back to front just seems that must have been hell for the actors.
Yeah, and they filmed the second one before the first one. And it was done after the principal photography of Undiscovered Country was filmed. However, this episode, because it's not a movie, aired 1 month before the movie premiere.
Well, television always happens faster.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, Amy, it had to kind of go down that way because I think they literally had to write the episode around what happens in Undiscovered Country. So they needed to kind of have that all squared away. You guys ever watch Undiscovered Country and look at how many of the sets are redressed Enterprise D sets?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to unsee things once you see it. I know we just recently talked about this, but I love it.
Especially the transporter room. It is quite untouched. Just an engineering. They're just great.
I know, which makes it more surprising when Scotty's on the Enterprise D and he's like, wow, like we never had anything like this, when I was in Starfleet. And it's like, you had this. You had this, Scotty.
Yeah. I don't think we mentioned this. I think we might have missed over this one, but I think it was kind of like an oh wow moment. I guess I didn't realize that, but it's the first time we go to Romulus.
Yeah. And I think that's great because it's still at this point in the show's history and timeline that the Romulans still have that element of mystery to them, whereas we take it for granted now that we know what Romulus is or was, shall we say, it dead. And yeah, just seeing those beautiful, or if you think of the beginning of Nemesis, Amy, I'm sure you'll appreciate this, where we zoom down to Romulus. Those are some of the
exactly what I was thinking about.
Some of the most beautiful shots of a planet, and even on Enterprise, where they had to carefully navigate that retcon of we're not allowed to see the Romulans. Nobody knew who they were, so everything was behind the scenes, but they still allowed us to see Romulus and the buildings and the beautiful architecture. So yeah, to think back that we, after all of the Romulan episodes of TNG that we were fortunate enough to get, we'd still not seen Romulus by season 5. It's crazy.
All right, guys. I am so thankful that we were able to discuss this episode. Again, it marks an important time in history and in Star Trek history. And we get Spock on TNG because we really love that. And I think you're right. It's these, little bits of those character moments that really make this episode at least memorable for me. The, political aspect is important, especially in 1991. So I just think it's a very great episode and reason why people love it so much.
I thank you for picking this episode, Amy. It's a really fun one. It does have, like I was saying, so much more implications onto everything else that comes in Star Trek later. So it's a very, I would say, one of the most, when we talk about importance to canon, this episode 1 and 2 is huge. And it's always been a favorite two-parter of mine. And it's always my little moment when you realize that Leonard Nimoy doesn't even show up until the last scene of part 1. But I still love it. Maybe because we get Mark Leonard in part 1 as well. It kind of feels a little balanced. But I just, this two-parter is just one of my go-to comfort blanket two-parters, and I love it. So thank you for picking it. It's good to talk about it.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. That's such a great way to describe this episode, Christos, as a comfort blanket. It is something you can watch when you're a little bit hungover or something. You just need a little bit of Trek to cheer you up. I will say, I remember being just as excited when I was younger that we got Denise Crosby back in this episode. I know we'd already had her in Redemption, but to have Sela and Denise back in this two-parter was just as special for me as actually having Spock. And just to kind of go on with your kind of importance to canon, we talk about the kind of reunification aspect as well, but this actually brought Spock back into the franchise alive and well, doing his thing in our TNG timeline. So in effect, this establishes Spock's presence and his actions that gave us the Kelvin timeline is in his efforts trying to protect Romulus from the supernova and the red matter, and then everything that happened in the 09 film. So we wouldn't even have that storyline, that timeline, if it wasn't for Unification.
Wow, I didn't. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier. It's like I just love the character moments. It was a lot of fun, a lot of smiles in this one for me. I love the zingy one-liners and stuff from the characters, and so for me, that's what makes Star Trek so fun for me, and that's a lot of the reason why I've loved this season of Picard, because there is that balance of, we're doing something important, and we want everybody to get along, and this sort of optimism of the future and all that. But there's also these moments of levity which make Star Trek, and there's just so many peppered through here that make it a really enjoyable experience.
All right. Well, Kelvin, what are we going to talk about next week?
I can't wait. Next week, we're heading over to Deep Space Nine to continue our Get Off My Ship series, or station. And attention, Bajoran workers, we're going for Civil Defense, which is a early season 3 episode. And it is a very good episode. So I can't wait to discuss it. It's a personal favorite of mine.
That's exciting. I have no idea what this episode is about. So surprise, surprise.
Unlike this week.
We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there. You can also tweet your thoughts at AllGoodPod. Please follow the network on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcast. We've also partnered with our friends at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching their master feed. So, Christos, where can people find you when you're not listening to this episode soundtrack?
You can find me in the BQN Collective on Facebook talking about Star Trek. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at GreekGeekSD, and on my other podcast called What's the T-Bev? And Mark, where can people find you when you're not showing people your 14-foot eel?
Well, when I'm not doing that, people can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook page. They can also find me if they become a patron of the network on Patreon, where I host a show called It's Green. I'm also on Twitter at MarkWhite207, so you can find me in all of those places. And Kelvin, where can people find you when you are not quickly drinking your soup?
I'm always quickly drinking soup. I am also in the BQN Collective Facebook group, and you can find me also on Twitter and or Instagram at Kelvin's Timeline. Amy, where can people find you when you're not singing Achtung and Melota on Quailo 2?
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I thought about it and I was like, no. Worf does a much better job. Well, you can find me here on the network where I'm co-hosting Galaxy Class and covering Picard live. You can see us there. I am on Union Federation and on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, but favorite place right there in Facebook group, BQN Collective.
So, Amy, what are the plans? Is Galaxy Class going back to its normal format after your last live stream this week, or are we staying in the video realm?
You know, it has been so much fun going live. Like the interaction in the comments, really, really good. We are thinking of going live like for our Batleth battles so that we can get the interaction there. So I'm thinking, great. Yeah. We just might keep on going live.
And that's just some feedback. I like your live episodes, and they're on Saturday mornings at 10 here. So it's like my Saturday morning cartoons in San Diego.
Oh,
that's sweet.
Yeah. All right. Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a star rating and written review. That helps others find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcast with our master feed by searching BQN. This way you won't miss any of our fine shows like Union Federation, Galaxy Class, History with the Szilagyi, Infinite Diversity, Sasquatch, What's the T-Bev, Trexperts Quiz, and our newest edition, The Captain's Couch with Jeremiah.
At this time, we would like to thank our associate producers, Mahendran Radhakrishnan and Tim Cooper. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and for our very own Mark White for our artwork each and every week.
If you would like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We'll add you to the Hive Mind Facebook group so you can enjoy It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other network perks. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings on the Hive Mind Roundtable discussion on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us
as we search out
all good things.